What's up, everyone? This is Max from Amped Magazine. We're interviewing Donnie Gebert, a former U.S. veteran and recent author of A Direct Republic, The Null Hypothesis of Politics, How to Automate a Legislator. That's what we're going to be talking about in these interviews. Visit ampmagazine.net/Donnie Gebert interview for more. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on what he's doing, how he kind of rose to power and not power, popularity, and why you think he did, and his kind of motivation behind it. I don't know if you follow them all too much, but what you think about him and his kind of rise to popularity.
Yeah, again, I only literally have one problem, and it's not even a problem. I like Peterson. He brings the religion into the conversation, and I understand. Like I got into before, where there's a lot of hygiene and just social functionality to some of the dogma. Then the idea of God is explored, and I don't spend a lot of time on God because Jesus doesn't bring the pork chops. I'm not trying to figure out how to save your soul. I'm trying to figure out how to save your ass. You know what I mean? This is Sergeant Gebert. I'm trying to get us the fuck out of here. We have no vehicles. We have no gas. We have no food. We have no water. We are in the Hobbesian state of fuck right now. How do we get out of this? That is an economic discussion. It is not an ideological discussion. So that's kind of how I always come at the situation, as I'm the guy on the ground and I have to go through the whole process. And if I get to a part of the process that I don't understand, we go back to Hobbesian state of fuck. So that's the portion where if this doesn't work for you, this is how society organized is. The question is, should someone else write laws for you? So Jordan gets to the point where he starts talking a lot about religion. And here's where it's very subtle. It's just a bias, a centralism bias. There's a lot of people who go to church on Sunday and they have very deep everything about their religion. I'm not trying to get into it. I'm not trying to insult it either. But then they show up to work on Monday morning and they're like, all right, well, who the fuck is in charge around here? Well, okay. That's a rational question at your workplace because that's kind of how it works. On the macro scale, it doesn't work. On the macro scale, Jeff Bezos isn't in charge of logistics on Earth. He's just real good at doing the stuff on part of it. But somebody who walks into Amazon that just came out of church on Sunday morning might start thinking they got the 50,000-foot view of the situation because Jesus gave it to them, and no, you didn't. No, you didn't. It does.
Yeah, I like that perspective because, I wasn't a religious person at all, and I thought it was kind of this coming from the same perspective, but not really knowing it, being a realist kind of about things. And but I do like how he showed not necessarily taking sides with Christianity, even though I think he does side with that more so than any other religion, but how following some kind of virtue is going to give you meaning in your life. And I think that does a lot for what we're trying to do, because it is, the virtuous path is taking responsibility for yourself, which is being self-sufficient in a lot of senses. And
what you consider a virtue changes over time too. So you have to have the ability to adapt to virtues that you were functionally incapable of dealing with when you were younger because you didn't have the experience or understanding. You have to have that ability to change that. And that's the real functional problem, is that if you have a bias that you shouldn't change that problem, that's kind of where I come from it. I don't have any hatred for Peterson or religion or anything like that. But if you have a centralism bias, you start thinking the government is supposed to do it in the same way that Jesus is supposed to do it. That's all. And when you come to the conversation with the tonality of that, like, think of how the tones that people speak about God, when they talk of God, they use almost the same tonality as when they talk of government. Yeah. And it doesn't work like that. That's all. That's all. But if that's a misperception by people who deal with God a lot, that somehow there really is a religious correlation to a government. You have to believe that the people on the far side of the government are actually working with you instead of against you. And one of my arguments here with Jeffrey Epstein is that there appears to be two governments. One that operates inside the other one and does whatever the hell it wants, period. And then the government you and I get to vote for that can't control the other one. That's what it looks like from afar, because they can't seem to keep their star witnesses alive when they want to prosecute politicians. So it's really, don't get caught up too much in the belief of it. And there's another thing I try not to do, and that is I don't associate with other people. It's I do what I'm doing, and I'm looking at it from the house side, and Jordan Peterson is Jordan Peterson. So when you're going to make a Jordan Peterson argument, you have to make his argument correctly, and then you have to critique it correctly. And if you make his argument incorrectly for him in his absence, which is usually what happens in a political conversation, somebody's position will get misstated, and then you get to, of course, slam dunk it in their absence. And like, this is just how politics works. It's dumb. It's almost like narcissism is a societal ethic, because people think they could vote for all of these topics. I have a $4 million education. I wouldn't vote on all these topics because of my education. So anybody who thinks that they should vote on all of them because they went to high school, maybe it doesn't work like that, camper. You know what I mean? Maybe it doesn't work like that. And we should all take a hot minute and go, maybe I shouldn't vote for foreign policy at 19.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like, at a certain point, it seems to be narcissism at a societal ethic.
Yeah. Yeah, it is quite amazing that we just, like, justify that and kind of, like, hey, because everyone is voting, that, it's going to, in the aggregate, work out, because at least some other person knows about that stuff, so they're going to vote the right way for these two people that we have to choose from.
And again, if you have an operation, most people don't want to be involved in these things. They have money taken from them out of their check, and they want to get the maximum amount they want the maximum amount for their money. That's what they want. They had money taken from it, and they want their value back. So it really seems that for 300 million people, it seems a lot better off to deprive the government of money and let the individual get involved what they get involved in. And if they spend all of their money on themselves, like, imagine everybody turns out like Charlie Sheen, except for the people who don't. Okay? You're kind of better off where you have these self-sufficient lunatics that just do their own thing and they become a problem mostly to themselves, instead of having these people get together and cause a war. That's all. Like John Bolton, what the hell is John Bolton anyway? John Bolton is the Charlie Sheen of politics. Like, that's what he is.
Sounds like a SNL skit or something.
Oh, man. I don't know who's going to... Nobody looks like John Bolton. That's the problem. We can get somebody to look like Charlie Sheen, but there's no SNL member that looks like John Bolton. I'll have to get one of the shorter females dressed up like Colonel Sanders. So, like, John Bolton, this guy seems to think he knows about war. I don't even know that he was in the military. I haven't done a good study on him, but John Bolton is the biggest warmonger on the planet, but he's only been talking about war my whole life. And I'm 40. Right. Like, has he been? Does he know how at all?
Do you think, I want to ask about that in the military. Is there, like, that's like some cognitive dissonance for me, is that people just, like, especially in the military too, because you see all these Netflix documents of, Afghanistan. It looks so like it's hell. People are literally getting PSD, just crazy shit right in front of your face, and you're sitting on your couch and you're just like, oh shit, like, that's reality. But do the military guys talk about that? Like, hey, what the fuck are we doing here? Look at Johnny over here. He's fucking losing his mind. Why isn't Donald Trump out here? If he's so adamant about, taking Iran down a peg and limiting their aggression across the region, why isn't he here strapped up next to me with an M16 fucking ready to go?
That's not how it's going to work anyway. That's just not how it's going to work at all anyway. But never mind. Like it takes years. You got to remember, you take a human being who's 18 years old and you place them in the military. It is a fundamental culture shock. It really wasn't bad for me. I was raised in Sparta, but it was still culture shock. There's still bureaucracy flying around. If you screw something up real bad, you'll lose your paycheck. So you got to pay attention to what you're doing. And if you're going to be wrong about it, you better be humble about it. So, or you'll lose your paycheck. So you got to figure certain things out. And it takes years to figure out certain things. That's it. There's nothing. You show up. You're the go look. There's a Netflix documentary called Restrepo.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. That one. My friend was like, "Oh, this is an awesome documentary, man. It's so cool." And I watched it. I was like, "Dude, what? This is like, I feel like I have to throw up after this. I won't wish this on my worst enemy."
So, well, but here's the thing. Here's where the warrior culture is unbeknownst to you, my son. Everybody who did that to themselves. Okay? I'm sorry. I don't make any excuses for the warriors. You signed up. You're there. Welcome to the fuck. I put myself in it. You put yourself in it. You might have ended up in a shittier place than me, but you put yourself into it. And it's not like I wasn't volunteering for every shitty place I can get into. So I kind of understand it. But if you don't know what you're volunteering for, that's what you see. Those guys are honest in Restrepo. They're like, yeah, we thought we were doing a good thing. And then they come back and are like, what the fuck is this nonsense? And that's because they get this microcosm, right? They think they know what, they think they're going to be able to defend themselves because they're really well equipped. And they think they know what they're doing on a socio-political level. And then they find out that they're neither when they get there. And all of a sudden, some of their friends start dying. They're like, wait a minute. I thought we were going to go to war and I wasn't really expecting people to die. I thought we were jolly green giants. And it doesn't necessarily work out like that. And then you start looking at the grander overall policy, and you're like, okay, so here I am looking for college money, and they immerse me in violence culture, which is a shock for most people. And then you get, I mean, when you're paid to immerse yourself in violence culture, it's one way to fix the problem. Like, it's always that. No matter how you want to deal with it, you can always shoot the guy, but that's not always the best way to deal with it. But nobody really thinks that when they're signing up for the college money. And nobody thinks that when, their family member is dead. So
you people coming back home, I feel like there would be more like anti-war sentiment from veterans if they go over, like, maybe Vietnam wasn't enough of a, you weren't connected enough for that, or.
Look at Restrepo. Restrepo is an extreme case. You're expecting hundreds of thousands of people who went into a war zone and didn't even get shot at to have a changed perspective. Right. Because not all of the people get shot at. I got shot at enough, but I didn't care to begin with. Like, I got shot at when I was hunting when I was a kid. So you start dropping artillery, like I was getting rockets, and I was like, fuck this, I'm going to chow. It's only rockets. Like, if they hit me, they hit me. If they don't, they don't, because rockets are random and I'm hungry. So today's my day, I'm hungry. And I would just do that. So, but that's how it works. You just have to make we're all making our decisions. We're all making our decisions. My chances of getting hit by a rocket are slim. I'm going to eat. Yes, they're slightly more elevated during a rocket attack. I'm still going to eat. That's the way. And if you're not ready for that, guess what? You're in the wrong AO. Go to college. Go to trade school. Join the Peace Corps. But so you have to start remembering there's a business end to planet Earth. Well, guess what? We're cleaning that up so fast that even the warrior culture guy is going to say, it's time to dial it back. There are certain levels of warriors. Let's look at it warrior as a service industry. There are certain levels of warrior we no longer need. Okay? We probably could have skipped the nuclear weapons level altogether, but we got to clean that mess up. And then the global two-front war thing, that's dumb. See, here's where this is going to come down, right? And I'm going to tell you how it's coming down. Imagine an entire planet where everybody functions on cryptocurrency. So when you go to their house and you shoot them and you don't have their private key, you have their house. So a military occupier de facto owns the land. That's how it works. But as far as gleaning property from the populace, if they're all on crypto, you're not going to be able to take their currency. And most of the value is in currency. Most of the value on Earth is in currency. The way currency works is it's like old people's gas pushed into the future. When somebody does work, so listen, your grandfather builds a house. Oh, I don't mean gas like fart. I mean gas like gas in the car. Like gas in the car. Your grandfather builds a house, okay? He did all the labor for that house. He improved that piece of land. Now, if you're in a property system where the Native Americans tell you, we get to burn down your house because we're now roaming this land for the season, that's not a good property right system, and it causes a problem. Some Native Americans were cool, some weren't. So the white man brought the property system, and the property system allows stability. There's nothing wrong with nomadic life, but the nomads cannot uproot the stationary humans. So you get this property system. Grandpa improves a piece of land, puts a house on it, gives it to dad. Dad does not fundamentally know what it's like to build a house. Okay? So this is where you get your shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. Dad doesn't know how to build a house, but he did inherit it from grandpa. Dad sells house. So now he doesn't have the property anymore, but he has how much of grandpa's work in his pocket? You know what I mean? That currency now represents a bunch of work that your dad did not do himself. So he gets to pass that. Your grandfather is passing your dad economic prosperity forward. This is one of the reasons the government loves the death tax. They're trying to make sure that wealth is only generational, and they get to confiscate it all at the end, and you get to start over. So now grandpa pushes that into your dad's hands. If your dad was wise, he did something good with it and pushed stuff into your hands. However, you might be real dumb and not know where houses come from. You know what I mean? That's where you get your shirt sleeve to shirt sleeve. But if these people are paying attention, they can start to synergistically roll that gas forward to where they have a bunch of currency in the bank because they collected old people's gas. If you look at it like that, like gas on the Ethereum network, if you start collecting these aggregates of other people's wealth in exchange, you get this mobile vehicle of exchange called currency, and you get old people's work to pass around. Well, then you devalue that work by printing it. It takes a lot of work to get the gold out of the ground. You can value the gold in dollars if you want, but it's easy to print dollars, and it's hard to get gold, and there's less gold and there's more dollars. Well, now, because currency functions, like the cryptocurrencies function very much like a gold system does, except they're fast. So they don't have the clunky gold, and they have private keys. So now I'm this area commander. I can go in and kill everyone in an area, but I can only take the land. Just like the bad old days of military conquest, I can only take the land. I cannot pillage the population anymore because their currency system was unlootable.
That's a great analogy.
So while I can kill everyone there, I can't take their gas. So I could be the landowner, but I probably won't prosper in this endeavor because I can't get at their wealth. I can't get at the majority of their wealth. I can only own the land, and that's it. Now, if you're going to commit a genocide and you're going to put up a for sale sign in all the houses, yes, I understand you could do that, but there's really no functioning reason to get to that place anymore. Because, again, we don't need transoceanic settlement, so we don't need the kind of endeavor that Lloyd's of London will now say, yes, we'll insure it, backed by the U.S. military. So now, as long as Lloyd's of London is no longer willing to issue that kind of stuff with a military, and you know what, there might still be places on Earth where you could only get somebody to insure whatever you're about to do unless you've got several hundred tanks lined up to go in and secure that area because you're planning on putting a lot of money there. And that area is fundamentally not secure because of the humans who live there. That sounds crazy. That's the world you live in. Trying to make, if you think, hypothetically, we're going to say there's a bunch of oil in South Africa and we could make everybody richer there if they would just calm down and learn how to pump oil. We're not going to do it for them, but if they sit down and we're willing to send them the education of what it would take. What's the next step of education? You need factories for oil equipment. You can't have oil fields because you don't have oil equipment factories. So you start teaching them how to build out their civilization, and then you make them do it on their own, and you see who the violent ones are. You know what I mean? There are some societies that can't build a doctor. They do not have the processes to build a doctor. So they have to send people to other countries, and then they come back trained as a doctor. So it really is about how. And all of these areas of the world, people think you could just... Iraq used to have decent infrastructure and wasn't necessarily a bad place, but it was run by Saddam Hussein. And in the 80s, you know what? Again, you're going to deal with that problem all the way up until 2008. So redirect wherever you want to go. It always ends up coming back to economics and the law, and you cannot legally change the economic barriers in your way. And the economic barriers is just process management. And the law will never change that.
Right. And that's it. I'm interested what you think. Like you're saying that it just doesn't, nuclear warfare, it doesn't make sense anymore. Like,
well, it never did. They didn't understand the long-term effects of nuclear weapons when they started making them. Making 10,000 of them was always a bad idea because it would only take 5,000 to kill the entire planet. You know what I mean? So at a certain point, we're well past mutually assured destruction. We'll just wipe out the species recreationally. Well, that's not a plan. That doesn't make any sense. So at this point, once you have this, like, I'm not saying these systems are inherently anti-war. I am saying they make aggregating large amount of resources together to have a war difficult. They do that. So when you can't really get the funding bucket to start a military industrial complex, wars tend to get difficult to, start up. Think of everything like a venture capital business. What kind of startups try to start a war, and what do they do to start it up? It's kind of, blockchain systems are inherently anti-war, and if your whole planet is functioning to where you could do a cross-oceanic payment of billions of dollars through coins that everybody knows are objective, instead of having to try to do a transoceanic gold movement, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's cost to the gold movement, and then there's way more security issues on top of the cost. So you kind of want a blockchain to do certain things. And now we're getting in good position to do several of these things, and everybody needs to know what the changes look like. If you know what the change looks like, you're ready for it. You don't care, you're happy. But the way these politicians work is they'll just bullshit you about how the system functions now, and then they'll tell you certainly don't want the new system. I mean, think about it. You don't even know the old system. Are you ready for something new? I mean, there's always a bullshit argument, man.